like leading into that game, we knew that, you know, obviously the game before, I think the game before us, he was playing against Manly, and he just, like, he absolutely killed it. And I think, like people were saying, and I'm probably certain on it as well, that was probably the best 40 minutes of rugby league that anyone's ever seen.
We were trying to discuss fucking if we'd seen better 40 and we couldn't think of it.
Okay, what's up? Attempt number 2, YKTR Sports Nation. Welcome back into the temporary body science content studio. Negatron the boss is away, but we got the reserves of doom. Myself, Skipper Scope, what's up, babe?
You've taken one of my takes already from the first cut that we just had. Typical Jacko, but I'm glad to have you back, brother. I'm sure you've been watching from afar.
Yep.
You've had a lot to say over the last sort of 4 to 5 weeks, but I'm interested to see. Like I said, I love your takes, mate. They're always a little bit left to centre. Yeah. So it's always interesting to see what you're going to toss up. It's good to have you back. It's
going to be good to have a bit of dead air without Isaac rolling his eyes to actually get these very articulate points out. I just take a little bit longer to articulate my points.
Yeah.
He's very fire out of a fucking cannon. So
yes, you'll be halfway through sometimes and he'll cut you down and it's
please
just like...
stop. I'm like, oh, come on, man. I was talking about your hat trick against the Wires. Come on, man. Anyway, before we get in, guys, just on a little quick serious note, had some heartbreaking news this morning. If you would have been across social media in this part of the world, you would have seen that Joseph Day had been missing in the UK. Joey's a friend of a friend. He's a very close friend of Livy and that crew. And unfortunately this morning we got the news that Joey's body was discovered in the UK. And I just wanted to quickly say, for whatever it's worth, my heart goes out to his beautiful fiancée, Kelsey. You won't meet a nicer crew than those Cashmore girls and Kels, Stephen, all of you. So thoughts and prayers are with you guys. And Joey's, I mean, when I say taken too soon, bro, he's one of the best people on earth. The reason I wanted to bring it up, there is a give a little that's been set up to get Joey back to Aotearoa, where he can do his funeral and his family can be with him. So I'll chuck that link up on my story. And if you got a spare dollar or whatever you can give, it'd be really important. It's beyond heartbreaking. So thoughts and prayers to Joey and his family.
Sorry to you, bro. Sorry.
That's all right, brother. All right, let's roll in. We got a big show, Scope.
Yep.
Before we get into 4 of the best, we got to shout out the mighty sponsors that keep the lights on, keep us doing our thing, and that is Steady Freddy. Scope. Start with Steady Freddy. Use code YKTR15 for a better fucking world. Everything you need from A to B to cover that intimate part of your life, which is so important. Steady Freddy. We speak a lot about champions on this show, but the bedroom's one time where you don't want to come first, Scope. We know that. And if there's anything you and I need assistance in, it's probably that part of our lives, let's be honest.
Like I said last week, I don't need it anymore, baby. I'm fucking smashing the Steady Freddy, and I've been on fire, as you know, boys. As you know. So, awesome.
Jump in, grab the delay spray. You can bundle that stuff up. Use YKTR15. You know what? Get everything under the sun. Get the ready wipes. Get protection. Get the delay spray. Scientific proven. All that good stuff, multivitamin. It's specific. The ball booster is the one that gets those vitamins up, gets your libido up, gets you cranking. So
that's a secret recipe, is it?
That's a secret recipe. Right. Take it all, use YKTR15, get 15% off. All right, footy news Scope.
Yep.
Let's rip in, mate. We got 3 of the best here before we get into our review previews.
Yep. What are they today?
I want to start with Lukey's mighty Parramatta Eels.
Yep.
So Dill Brown has been back, named at 6. So Opacek comes back into the side. It comes after a week where poor Jakey Arthur's copped a bit of a hammering for, in a different team performance, to be honest, last week. But Dill Brown back in the 6. What do you make of the move?
Yeah, obviously we spoke about it last week. I think we were just not in 3 of the best, but when we're previewing it, I found it I could see this coming. Like I could see this coming because what I talked about with regards to more so not Jakey personally, but more moving probably the form player of the competition and Dill Brown. Well, definitely, one of the top 2 sixers, moving him to the centres to make way. But then obviously I went through and looked at it, and we talked about all the injuries that they had, and Tom Opacek, I believe was named in the extended bench, but he wasn't right to go. So it also a factor that come into it, and a lot of people aren't realising, is that they genuinely, I've seen a lot of the I seen Mitchy Moses speak yesterday with Gutho, and they were talking about how they let him down in that situation. And despite what I said last week, and I stick by that, for me, I would have found a way to keep Dill Brown at 6 and then try to plug and play maybe one of the back rowers. I was a back rower in my day and flicked in and played a bit of centres. Murata Nirakora has played a bit of centres in the past for them and done a really good job. I know it's becoming a specialist position, but I just thought it was going to put him under immense amount of pressure, and it did. But what's been said about him and, Brad and Jake personally and about the family ties and that has been way out of line.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people have come in and stuck up for him. I love seeing Gutho and Mitchie, like I said, stick up for him and, basically say that they let him down because it was a poor performance across the board from the Parramatta Eels. We ran into Junior Paulo the other day, and he was just talking about how mainly more so was, what's the word?
Critical?
Not critical. He pretty much, we were talking about Cowboys being legit. He was a little bit, not surprised by it, but he had a lot of praise for the Cowboys. So that comes into it as well. We'll talk about the Cowboys as we get on, but some of the shit that happens that's said on social media and specifically the fucking diehard Para fans, it's just out of line. Whether you agree with selections or not, I think that the main thing that's come from it is basically because he's family, and it's been out of line for me.
You played at Para at a time where you boys were struggling a little bit.
Yep.
The Para fan base. Talk to me. I mean, you've played at a few clubs, but how is the Para fan base different? Because just from the outside looking in, they do seem like a savage bunch when they decide either they're off someone or things aren't going their way.
Oh, you see, I was thinking about this as the game was going on because I checked straight away. My thought was to go onto the Parramatta Eels Instagram page and just see what was being said because obviously thinking about the show and I was like, during my time, if it was nowhere near as hectic as it now is with social media. So some of these kids in particular, like guys around this age, I suppose they're growing up with it, but it's quite confronting and it doesn't make it any easier. Parramatta fans are pretty ruthless. If social media was in my days...
You might have got a little hammer.
Oh, geez, I wouldn't have been fucking reading the comments because, I talk a lot about rocks and diamonds and I was more... especially in those Para days with our team at the time, I was probably more rocks than I was diamonds. So, that's the world we live in now, though. They're pretty ruthless, the Parramatta fans. Probably put them up there with... it's a proud club, right? So it's, you think of Bulldogs, Para Sandout. Even the Roosters are starting to...
They're starting to whisper, to murmur.
there's a few little comments that are starting to generate around the Roosters' performances of late too. So I guess... it's just the day and age that we live in. Everyone's got to say now. Those comments that are on Instagram probably would have been in blog pages back in the day,
which you don't see,
which you never in as a player. Or I think some boys. I know a guy that I played with back in the day. I won't mention his name. He used to be in one of the blog pages, and it used to absolutely do his head in.
What was he doing? Defending the boys, or
no? He used to just go in there and read what people were saying about him, and it obviously. It would play a part in his mindset throughout the week and what he did at training. So, unfortunately, this is what these boys deal with day to day now with Instagram, social media, Facebook, all these sorts of things. So, it's just a part of it now.
I actually think Parramatta have made a bigger deal of this than anyone else, to be honest. Like by the not responding to the Jacob Arthur criticism, but because they were asked, Moses and Gutho were asked. But I think there was a way to flat bat that, like Jakey Arthur, like him or not, he played the week before and they fucking went all right, didn't they? They smacked Newcastle.
Yeah, they did. And he played well.
He played well.
There's a few little things that people were critical on him.
Sure.
But like the Dyl Brown experiment in centres actually worked all right in that game.
And Jacob Arthur is their backup half. So they, I know in hindsight, we all say, maybe Brycey Cartwright or someone could have plugged in at that centre position and done a job. But at the time, they played Newcastle. They moved Dill out and brought in their backup half, who was Jacob Arthur. They smacked them and held them to only 2 points.
Yep.
They go on the next week, it doesn't quite work. The second Opachek is fit, Jacob Arthur's back to the extended reserve. So I don't think it's a father-son thing. I think he just picked his backup halfback. And it's one of those ones, I heard Paul Kent talking about it yesterday. He goes, whether you think that moving Dill Brown out of 5'8" into centre was the right task or not, it goes back to the Michael Jordan thing. You get your best players on the field. He put his best 17 on and then figured out after that where to put them. So I agree there's people who want the specialist centre out there. They didn't have a specialist centre ready to go. Dill Brown's the next best thing. They then didn't have a specialist cover at 5'8", whether Bryce Cartwright could have done a job in hindsight, maybe he could have at 5'8", but Jakey Arthur is their backup half for better or worse. He comes in, it doesn't work. The second Opachek is fit, they revert to Typin and Jakey's extended. So it sucks that he copped all the criticism and the father-son narrative was played into it. I think if that coach was Trent Barrett or name another coach, I wouldn't be shocked if they had done the same move, to be honest. So,
well, Nathan Cleary was a person that came out and stuck up for him the most.
Yeah.
the day after their game in preparation for the game coming up this
Again,
week.
he was asked directly about Jakey Arthur, but yeah, he's a guy who's obviously
he's been through it.
And
come out the other end. So.
I think it was his second, was it
First year.
First year where he wasn't,
coming to the pump,
he wasn't
same as Jakey.
silky.
Like, Jakey played last year, but essentially this is his first proper season where he's going to be looked upon to be that next guy that comes in. Because last year they had Will Smith.
Yeah.
They played around with Brycey Cartwright coming in playing a bit of 6. But with the way the team's set up this year and who they've got, he's the next up. So this is his first proper season in a way.
Lukey and I mentioned it yesterday when we were watching it, like that moments like this, when this sort of pressure comes on and you have injuries, that's when the value of a guy like Will Smith, letting him go, or, he got a good deal, so he left, but those sort of players can be invaluable in your top 30, particularly in a moment like this, because that would have taken all the pressure off, because if there's an injury 1 to 7, Will Smith's your guy. 9.
Well, this is what I always say, Jacko, when I talk about this part of the season, that you don't win comps from 1 to 17. It just doesn't happen. This is why Melbourne have been so strong. This is why Penrith are building a culture out there now. It's players from 17 to 25, I reckon, that win you a comp.
Yeah.
When you're missing guys like start of the season, Penrith Panthers, Nathan Cleary, James Fisher-Harris, Liam Martin.
Yep.
They missed multiple games to start the year across the board. Brian Toto.
8-0.
8-0 now.
Yeah.
And obviously they've got a lot of talent in their team, but it speaks highly of the players that they bring in and they plug and play and they do a job. So it's so crucial getting that right.
Yeah. I think
I'm not saying Para have got it wrong, but I'm saying, you're right. That sort of stuff highlights it.
They are a little bit top heavy, but just before we move off Para, the question that came out of all of this was the narrative that they are a top heavy side and Mitchell Moses can potentially explore his options. I'm throwing this one at you. It wasn't in the notes, but I want to see. He comes off in November 1.
Yeah.
Do you, if he walks into Parramatta and says, I want $1 million, do you pay Mitchell Moses $1 million? If you're Mr. Parramatta, put the blue and gold back on for a minute.
I just don't think they could do with what they've currently got. So if you've got Gutho would be on pretty decent coin, Junior Paulo would be on pretty decent coin, Dill Brown would be...
They've just re-upped Dylan Brown, didn't
have they?
Well, I believe
How long ago
last year.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Yeah, to be it's a tough one.
Lost Reed Marnie.
I know. Oh yeah, Reedy's gone, but I know they like those boys get along with BA really well. They'll figure it out. I don't think that's a decision that has to be made right now anyway. I
just know with Parramatta that the noise will come when it, like, whether it's finals time or it'll come at the wrong time for Para and it'll be played out in the media. But for whatever it's worth, I'd pay Mitchie a milli. Right, let's move on to my boy, REECE Walsh. Fending off Dolphins left, right and centre, baby. Finally comes out. He felt the need to come out and address the rumours that he was going to the Redcliffe Dolphins next year. For a bit of clarity on REECE Walsh's contract, he is under contract with the Warriors next year. In 2024, he's under contract with the Warriors. That's where his option is, and it's only a player welfare option. So if him and the club come to an agreement that he's had a year in New Zealand, he misses home, wants to go home, they can then come to an agreement and he can leave. It's not a clause that if the Dolphins give you $1 million, you can walk. So I thought Nathan Brown was really poignant on Sunday on the radio. He basically said, if Redcliffe call me, I'm not answering the phone. He goes, Walshy's coming home. And then Walshy doubled down yesterday. Obviously, you would have seen the soundbite came out and said, I'm excited. I'm 100% going to New Zealand next year. Blow for the Dolphins, but what do you make of Walshy's comments?
Well, I think that's where all this has come about. So I think, obviously we're a part, like mainstream media, and obviously, we've played our part in talking about it. I think it's more to do with what's happening at Redcliffe.
Yeah.
The fact that they haven't got that marquee signing outside back have built this narrative there. We're just trying to find players to plug in and put into that Redcliffe
got a clause,
team.
chase him.
I didn't know about the contract situation. I thought Walshy had a clause where he could leave going next year based on staying in Queensland.
Aitken, Lodge, Siren and those boys have that.
Yep.
But Walshy's was a 2024 welfare option that I think O'Sullivan worked into that contract when he was at the Warriors. And it was simply because his then partner was pregnant at the time, and he goes, listen, you're going to have a year in New Zealand. If it gets too much in 24, you're more than welcome to dip out and leave. But I imagine what Walshy's value is going to be in 2024 anyway, so it's only going to go up. But it's a great news for my boys.
It's awesome for you boys.
Yeah.
It's good that he's sort of come out. It nips it in the butt, right? So I don't think there's going to be any chat after this week about it. So good thing for the Warriors, good thing for Walsh. He can go on and play some good footy. They've been playing all right. Like I said, the Wars, they didn't get too low on what happened to them against the Storm. They come out and got the dub against the Raiders. So good week for the Warriors.
Let's flip it then. What about the Dolphins? So if you believe Braith, and I'm sure you've had probably loose conversations with the Prez, but they're not getting Walshy next year, definitely.
Yep.
It looks like they're 99.99% not going to get Prez next year, definitely. They've already missed Harry, they've missed Hughes, they've missed Ponga. Is it panic stations yet? At what point do you start going, I mean, it's only May, and I'm sure Wayne Bennett's got some irons in the fire, even if it hasn't come into the media yet, but if you're the Dolphins, we said this when they lost Ponga, where's your attention turn? We all went, Walshy. Now that Walshy's off the radar, what do they do?
Yeah, I reckon they're in a tough spot now. Like, said this all along, when they started building towards that forward pack, I thought they put some real good foundational pieces that are going to set the tone for them in the pack, but we always said that they require someone in the spine, whether it be a fullback, like a star half. Yeah, Braves come out and said, and Melbourne have said, Munster's still contracted for next year.
Melbourne said the same thing the Warriors did. They said, we're not answering the phone, get fucked. Yeah. Fair enough.
They're in a tough position, man. They're going to have to... It's Wayne Bennett. He'll find a way. He'll look to find something. I think maybe they've got to go down the road of identifying just some really good young players at other clubs and paying them overs and developing, draft and develop sort of system, a bit like the NFL. If you're the worst team in the competition, or you're obviously a new team, a foundation club that is coming in, you've got to be able to draft and develop, and not draft and develop, but
I get what you mean. Yeah,
pick up some young players and develop them, and there's nothing for me. There's nothing else out there.
Yeah.
So that's what.
Allow me to sprinkle some more fucking rumor into there. Well, we just touched on it. If he is able to negotiate from November 1, if you're looking for a premier half, I don't know, why wouldn't you have a look at Mitchell Moses if you're Redcliffe? Is he a foundation club sort of guy? Is that his role, or is he more of a plug and play in a good system?
Mitchie would be. He's at that. He's rolling into the prime of his career. Yeah. He's developed. He was a bit erratic at the Tigers, in particular the last couple of years. If they could get someone like Mitchie, but again, this is the thing I was talking about with Walsh. Are we just going to build a narrative around players that aren't available and chat about it? I guess we've just got to wait till the end of the year comes around and there are actually players that have been given.
There seemed to be this Wayne Bennett allure where they go, I know Munster's contracted for next year, but if Bennett does his thing and he goes to the club, he'll get out. Walshy, I know he's contracted next year, but Wayne Bennett will do his thing. And these clubs are just going, nah, bro. They're contracted. You're not getting them. So I wonder, I know he's playing it cool and he will have a plan, but I wonder if maybe the Dolphins and Wayne thought this would be a little bit easier to bring the big guns over. I don't know. It just seems like they've had a few big swings and a few big misses. So, I mean, Jesse's obviously a big one. Jesse will be the the captain up there.
Yep.
But, I wonder where they turn from here. I'll be turning to Mitchell Moses, baby. All right, Scope, let's move on. Last one. We want to talk about the Cowboys because you blink and the cunts are sitting third on the ladder. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what we missed in the preseason, because I think I had them as my wooden spoon favourites.
I did as well.
You had them down somewhere down there.
I did as well.
Tears me.
Scope tears me. They were in my bottom four for sure, and I admit. But I like to see, this is the beauty of, like I said before, of doing this show and watching other, whether it be mainstream media, even here in Australia or overseas, where they double down on what they say and they don't admit when they're wrong.
Yeah.
We're flat out wrong about the Cowboys, and I'm happy to say it. And I'm happy for the guys that are playing well for him up there, and Todd Payton, who I think is doing a really good job coaching. You can see they've got clear intent of what they want to do in games, and he's got himself. Somehow, when I looked at that roster at the start of the year, it looked like the worst roster in the league.
Yep.
And now
it was them or the Knights. I was going, geez, they're going to struggle.
Now he's got a fucking headache of who he plays because they're all playing so well.
Yeah.
When I look at that outside backs, the Hammer come on in 15 minutes and had two highlights straight away. But fuck, I don't know who you drop out of that back five to get him back in the team. And when I look at a guy that filled his spot like Scotty Drinkwater.
Oh, you can't move him.
Did you watch the Tigers versus Dragons game?
Yes.
So the Tigers have been unreal for the last couple of weeks, right?
Yeah.
Dane Laurie misses that game. Stafford Toa comes on and did a really good job for him, filled in last week, and they got the job done against the South, right?
Point, yeah.
And he was solid again, Stafford Toa, but when they got to the opportunity where they could strip him for 3-on-2s, he just didn't have that in his game, and that's so important. And I don't think Hammer's got that right now. Yeah. He can obviously develop it, and he's going to get better and better as he goes, but Drinky has been unreal at that for the last probably 2 or 3 weeks. I feel like maybe their first try where he stripped and went over the top to Felt, if my memory serves me correct, it would have been in the first couple of tries. Just that little bit of silk that Scotty Drinkwater's, you've got to keep him at fullback for me. And
you're not moving the centres, so you've got two.
Pet and Val ain't going anywhere.
Felt scores tries for a giggle. The guy who might be unfortunate to miss out will be, is it Taulagi?
Taulagi, yeah.
Who's been
He's a gun.
Sensational.
I love him. I love him as a player. I've been a fan of him for a while as well. So, like I said, the Cowboys suddenly find themselves with the decision to see to get in. Because remember that, for me, that decision at the start of the year was who was going to partner Chad Townsend at halfback. Was it going to be Dearden or Drinkwater?
And we're going, they're the same player, and we don't like it.
Now it's like, shit, where do we Drinkwater staying?
Yeah.
Where do we find a spot for Hamiso? So, unreal job from the Cowboys. Some really good young and up-and-coming forwards, Jeremiah Nanai, Helium Lukey, Tom Gilbert. We've been speaking about them. Even Griffin Neen that comes off the bench from. Yeah. Really impressive team.
We'll be remiss if we didn't talk about Ruben Cotter either. The old fake Brandon Smith.
I forgot Ruben Cotter.
Mate, him and Cheese might be my favourite players to watch, and they play exactly the same, more or less. He is a fuck. I was talking to Chico was talking about him yesterday, actually, and I said,
I seen Chico post about him too.
I said, do you reckon he could be an Origin chance? Chico goes, fuck yes.
Yeah, he's got it all. Yeah. He's got it all. Like a couple of years ago, that's when he hit the radar for me when he played in the All Stars game.
Yeah,
fuck, he was. So I didn't know who he was before that.
Field,
he come out of left field. I think he come off the bench or maybe started for him at hooker. I asked Laurie Daly about him. Remember that?
Yeah, you
on
asked
the interview.
He was in downstairs.
I asked Laurie about it because Loz would come on. I go, tell me something about like Ruben Cotter because he's playing nine fizz. Yeah. He goes, to be fair, I don't know much about him as well because when it comes to those teams, there are guys that have that fell out of that team that gave him the opportunity to come in. And everyone knows who he is now. He's obviously, he's a fan of us at YKTR Sports. Yeah. We, mix and mingle and text him every now and again. So I'm happy for him, man. He's killing it.
He's an unreal watch. My key I wanted to touch on, when I came into the season, my biggest thing for being a bit down on the Cowboys was I was with you. I thought their halves I thought they had some decisions to make around it. I didn't know if Chad was the guy. Chad was at my club and he was a great player at Cronulla. I just didn't know if he was the halfback to take you from where they were to the promised land, which is obviously finals football. More so than that, I didn't know if they had an answer at 6. I was never too sold on Dearden. I was never too sold on Drinky. I didn't know what they were doing. They've answered that question sweet. The biggest key for me was Taumalolo. I thought that Todd Payten had no idea how to use him effectively. I thought that the whole minutes restrictions to, elongate his career was fucking ludicrous. I'm like, you got him. He's in his prime. Play the cunt 90 minutes if you can. That was my thinking. Taumalolo and Payten, whatever conversation's going on, they played it out. They played it down the whole time, and you were kind of going, there's a bit in that. Otherwise, where is it coming from? There clearly wasn't. They actually seem to have got on the right page from week 1 because Taumalolo, if it's not Ruben Cotter, the best forward on the field every week, it's Taumalolo. His second stint in particular, I know they always talk about it, but it's the best second stint in fucking NRL.
Yeah, that's where he does his best work late.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, exactly. Well, let's not compare yourself to Taumalolo. Lukey cut up the highlight.
Well, I'm talking about my mid-range this morning. Started off at 30%, ended up 45%.
Were you on the shooting machine?
Yeah, I was on the shooting machine.
Yeah, I love
that.
Bit
like, me and Tom, similar like that.
Similar in your second stint, yeah. But I've been super impressed from the Cowboys. Last question on them before we leave. Are they the real deal? And by real deal, I mean, can the Cowboys win the comp?
I don't think they can win the comp as the team stands right now. But they'll be a pain in the ass when it gets around to finals time and they'll have a proper crack and they'll have a plan. So I believe they'll hold their position in the finals. When I look at teams, I've got a lot more question marks on a few other teams than I do on the Cowboys right now, for sure.
All right, and when it comes to holding position, you want to hold your boys in position scope. So this show is brought to you by Manscaped. There it is. Manscaped, you can use, they've been with the podcast, they've been supporting the boys for a minute. You can insert promo code SCOPE.
SCOPE.
Or
ICE.
And in honor of, we tested these new boxes out and let's just say, mate, I threw out the rest of my underwear.
Yeah, they're
I'm
nice.
a Manscaped guy.
Yeah, and it's getting to that point too because normally I like to let it hang out, in summer. It's a little bit sweaty in that, but now we're rolling into winter. Just a little something down there, just...
The old jewel pouch.
Yeah, it feels nice.
Yeah,
feels
and
nice.
Especially when we're in the
sleep
lab.
on the weed whacker too.
Oh, no, I don't. Don't
just
worry
really
about that.
clears the nostrils.
Simi needs to use it on his ears. He's got those fucking daddy long legs creeping out of there
They
too.
are good for that as well.
Don't smile at me like that, cunt.
Yeah, give it a crack.
There you go. Manscaped.com. Chuck in promo code ICE or SCOPE. Support the boys. Get you 20% off, free shipping, all that good stuff. Right, SCOPE. Let's rip into the preview. Before we do that, because the first game of the week is South Broncos, and you had the honour, the privilege, of catching up with one of the hot boys of the NRL.
He's my nephew.
He's your nephew. Here is Scope's chat with Jordan Riki.
Okay, welcome back to the YKTR Sports Show. As always, we're joined by the biggest stars in the game. He is the current Brisbane Broncos back rower, New Zealand Māoris back rower, Bloat FC back rower, and potentially New Zealand Kiwis back rower with a test coming up against Tonga a little bit later in the year. Geordie, with that coming up, bro, and your form to start the year, is that something now that you start thinking about as you get into the season, or is it just purely for the Broncos?
Yeah, bro. Obviously, like growing up as a New Zealand kid, obviously wanted to play rugby league, but always wanted to play for your country as well. I think that's really special, and I had the privilege of playing and captaining my country in the junior Kiwis as well, and,
awesome.
and it's always such a blessing as well for me and my family back home. And definitely would be looking forward or trying to make the Kiwis versus Tonga game coming up soon. So yeah, but obviously I want to play my consistent footy for the Broncos and keep on that winning train and hopefully make the top 8, top 4, and then hopefully get a premiership this year. But just got to keep doing what I'm doing week in, week out, and let my footy speak for itself.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's get into that then. The Broncos 4 from 8 to start the year. You've got the day off today, rolling into captain's run tomorrow for Souths. You got the chocolates at the start of the year in a pretty emotional game. Talk a little bit about sort of your own form, the form of the team. I feel like both of you clubs are at the same point where you're starting to really figure out what your best team is and play some really good footy of late, yourselves and Souths I'm alluding to. But what's changed a lot from that round 1 performance, and then what do you feel like you're doing well now?
Obviously, we had a pretty big missing person in round 1, and that was Reno. He was coming off from COVID, and I think we just really wanted to go out there and sort of prove ourselves, that the last couple of years isn't going to stick around for us as a team and as a club. We really had something to prove, and obviously it was great to get that win in round 1 against South. And Reno was sort of speaking to us during that whole week through a Zoom call, actually, because he had to self-isolate. But he was just sort of saying, like, boys, like, you just got to have that belief and, just really sort of dig deep. And he was actually allowed to come to the game. I think he was out of isolation the day before our game against South, and he was in our changing rooms, and he was going to speak to everybody one-on-one. And, that's just sort of the type of person he is. Like, he when he first came in, you could just really tell that he cares about the players in the club. And when he first came in, he sort of said, like, boys, I'm here. I want to win a premiership. And he didn't really speak much about what he did at South or anything like that, but you just know that his presence and what he can do on and off the field really gives motivation and the boys to sort of play that extra level. But yeah, I think that this game coming up against South is going to be a big one for both of us teams. Obviously they probably haven't started off with the greatest start that they wanted to, and we're just sort of starting to find our feet. So I think it'll be a big game for both of us, and I'm just really excited, and it'll be an interesting game, and be a very physical game as well. So yeah.
You mentioned, obviously, you ran a little bit there. I've got a question, just sort of regarding obviously the presence that he's brought to the team as well. But I know he's through a few WhatsApp groups that we're in. He's a bit of a chirpy dude. What's obviously that side of it too. I think he's handled it really well. The way he's talked about how he doesn't really want to talk about, as proud as he was to represent the club at South, it seems to be everything about Broncos straight away in that first press conference. Broncos. Yeah. I love what he's brought there, but what about that? Considering you've been a team that's had a lot of young talent, and you're still building towards something, and I think, obviously making the right steps. What about his just demeanour around the club, where he's just he seems like a pretty relaxed guy. He likes to take the piss a little bit, and that must be refreshing for you guys. Obviously being younger guys and sort of what he's done in the game.
Yeah. The thing with Reno is like he's actually really professional and like how he handles things. like when it comes to footy, like it's like a switch, bro. Like he's just boom, like straight in, like sort of no fucking around. Like this is how it is, like straight into it. And then when we're having a coffee and stuff like that, or winding down time, he's just like a menace. Like he just loves taking the piss out of the boys and having a laugh. And I think that's what it should be about. Yeah. Like you gotta sort of learn when to, and I'm still learning, and he's teaching most of us young boys as well, where when it comes to footy and when it comes to go time, like you're ready to go, but also he teaches us, when it's time to relax, like enjoy yourself, like soak it all in, enjoy it, have a laugh with your mates, or go do whatever with your family and stuff like that. It doesn't always have to be about thinking about footy and stuff like that. So he's just really good to have around, and he's real easy to talk to as well. Like if you've got some questions, or you want some advice on something, like he's just a phone call away, and he always says, just call me, bro. Like I'm easy. Like let me know if I can help you out, or come around for dinner, bro, and we'll have a chat and stuff like that. So he's just awesome to have around the club. So yeah,
and he's obviously played a big part in your role, bro. Like watching you guys over the last years, in particular, probably the last 18 months. Guy like Katoni, you guys have developed a bit of a combination when Katoni's been there back playing, and then obviously Selwyn COWBOYS started the year and been unreal for yourselves. But I hope this doesn't come across disrespectful, but you've been a bit erratic on that right edge over the last couple of years, and I feel like he's just like a really settling presence for you, in particular probably the last 4 or 5 weeks, where he sort of had reined you boys back in a little bit, and you're all playing your best footy, I reckon.
Yeah, especially when like it's a close game, or there's 20 minutes left and we're down by a try or something like that. Like he's sort of like the one that we all look to, and especially for us on our right edge, like it's just, it blows my mind sometimes how calm he is on the field. Like I'm like, sometimes where I'm just like I get in my own head a little bit, and I'm just like, fuck, come on, like, and he's just like, he sort of just like, I look over at him, or he's trying to like talking to us, and it's just real slow, real calm, and he's like, don't worry, like things will work out, sort of thing. And I'm just like, fuck, how are you doing that? But it just comes with experience, I guess, and for him, and it's just really good for us boys, because like you were saying before, we're a young team, and sometimes we can get a bit in our own heads when we feel like a game might be getting away, but Reno's just sort of the one there to calm us all down and just be like, don't worry, like sort of, I've got this, just trust me. And we're just like, fuck yeah, all right. We're all jumping on the Reno train at the moment, but it's been awesome. So yeah.
What about the performance on the weekend of your right centre? The challenge was set, in particular, even from himself when we love that stuff, bro. We talk that up. We think there should be more of that in footy, because it was a really respectful comment too. It's, he was aware. It seems like he's got a bit of a relationship with Talakai, and knows Talakai in some sense. But I thought he really set the tone, bro, in his first 3 defensive efforts, in yourself, when you got involved in the tackle, and Ren was even chipping in. I know exactly what that's like playing against Ren back in the day, where it seemed like he just really wanted to get your contact right, in particular start the game against the Sharks, and that really set up the game for you.
Yeah, well, like leading into that game, we knew that, obviously the game before, I think the game before us, he was playing against Manly, and he just, like, he absolutely killed it. And I think, like, people were saying, and I'm probably certain on it as well, that was probably the best 40 minutes of rugby league that anyone's ever seen.
We were trying to discuss fucking if we'd seen better 40 and we couldn't think of it.
Yeah, like it's probably the best rugby league 40 minutes that anyone has ever played. So, and we definitely knew that he's a strong player for them, and he's a great carrier out of yardage, and he draws in a lot of defenders. So he was a big talk for us on our right edge. And then obviously on the left edge, they've got on our left edge and the Sharkies right, they have Nico as well. And, he's been killing it also as well. So they had some key players in there that we definitely wanted to shut down. And it's the same as this week as well. They've got some key players in South that we want to shut down, and if we can do that, then we can just do the little things right. Then hopefully we can get away with that win. So but it's awesome to see Katoni sort of. We're talking about it all week, like me, Payno, and Paddy, and some of the boys were like, "Oh, like now you said it, now you got to back it up," sort of thing, and just getting into him a little bit, just giving him like, "You got to back it up now, bro. Like you've said it," and then he's like, "Yeah," like just a bit of banter and stuff like that. But just Katoni's just a freak, bro, and obviously so is Talakai. No disrespect to Talakai as well, like he's a freak as well, and they're both great players in their own way also as well. But it was just really cool to see those two Bulls really just going at it, and I loved it. And I said to Katoni after the game, I was like, "Fuck, bro, you did mean." And Reno was sort of trying to, you know how you were saying before, like Reno's just a bit of a smart ass and stuff like that, and then Reno was sort of chipping in saying like, "Oh yeah, wouldn't have been a good tackle if I wasn't in there," stuff like that. And I was like, "Oh, bro, he's the biggest topper I've ever met."
Ren.
Just tries to top everything. Like if you say you've got like a brand new Ferrari, like he'll come out and says, "Oh yeah, I got a Porsche." I bought a Porsche last week. Like just something like that. He's the biggest topper ever.
You know what Ice's favourite one is? If you say you live in Double Bay, he lives in Triple Bay.
Oh, bro. Just the biggest topper with everything, bro. Like with everything.
Yeah.
Just but it's great though. And I've been really proud of Katoni. Obviously last year he didn't play as much footy as he wanted to just from the injuries. And I know that one of his goals this year is to get a crack at Origin. So I definitely feel like he's on the right path for that. So
sure.
Just really proud of him and what he's come through as well from his injuries.
His name's obviously come up a fair bit with potential injuries to the centres, whether it be Latrell looks to have a bit of a hammy injury or Turbo, but I'd dare say even if those boys would be playing, he's playing that good that he's putting pressure on him anyway. But just to finish off on, what about yourself? What were some of the goals that you set, sort of like, or things that you wanted to work on throughout the year, and then what's something that you want to make sure that you keep improving on as the year goes on to finish off this year?
I feel like probably the biggest one for me would be just keep improving and consistency. Like obviously I was in and out of the team last year, and it was probably it was actually I think my first sort of real NRL season where I've just been trying to be on the verge, but then also learning as well. So it was my first sort of real NRL season last year, and I think this year I really wanted to come in and just sort of secure my spot and just play like really good consistent footy. Obviously this year, at the end of this year, is going to be the World Cup as well, and we were just talking before about the Kiwis and Tonga game, so that's definitely on my goal list, is to try and make that squad for both of those for the Kiwis versus Tonga game, but then also make the squad for the World Cup as well. And if I end up getting in there, I'll be extremely grateful, and I'll just try to soak it in and learn as much as I can, like I did in the All-Stars games, around some quality players that I grew up idolizing, and it'll be the same, I feel, in the Kiwis jersey as well. So just for me, just playing consistent footy and just keep learning off the people I need to, and just always asking questions and stuff like that. So but I'm hoping by by the end of this season I might be in the World Cup squad, but I'm just going to keep my head down and keep working hard, and just keep playing consistent footy.
Awesome, bro. That's the mindset, and I feel like obviously you've been watching you closely over the last couple of years in particular. You've got a lot of big things on the horizon for not only the Broncos and the Kiwis, bro. So all the best for the rest of the year. Thanks for joining us on your day off, Neff, and all the best for tomorrow, brother.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Geordie.
And this podcast is also brought to you by Earn You, the fun way to combine cryptocurrencies and gambling. We love a pun around here, Skip, but if you want to tip your picks every weekend, you don't want to lose a bit of fat, but you want the opportunity to be part of a growing community, invest in the crypto space, and maybe have your little foray into that world.
A bit of crypto jam.
Bit of crypto jam. You can do it through Earn You. The link and is in the description below. So jump down, have a little bit of a play. Gambling isn't always about making money. It's about letting people know how good you are at sports. So head to Earn You. The link is down below. Join the boys. Make some money, baby.
Earn You Jam, baby.
And if you've been watching the show wondering what Skip's got on, it's that new Creme de la Creme Embossed collection is live now. So head to if it hasn't sold out already, because we've been...
Oh, yeah, you better get in early. I want to buy some. I've tried to buy some, Jacko.
Went live at 11, so jump on yktr.com.au. Cop the Embossed collection. It's a full restock of the mauve and the sage, but we've also added the cream.
Well, this is nice.
It's nice. Skip's out there running an XL, so if you're a 6'5" of the best and a $110, jump the XL. Embossed collection.
$1.05.
yktr.com.au. Preview, review time. Let's rip in Souths v Broncos. Thursday night footy scope. Before we rip in, we need to talk about Katoni because there was a lot of narrative last week, him versus Talakai. Your boy got up. Your boy got up. What impressed you about... We'll start with the Broncos, but Stags in particular.
I also want to say, don't be... I didn't go and have a shave just quickly there in the break. That was pre-recorded yesterday. Our boy Jordan Riki's got captain's run, and then they're flying down today. So just a little heads up on that.
Thanks, Ricky.
If my beard is looking a little bit different today. Katoni, I thought he really set the intent and the tone on the entire game, which flowed through for his performance and the Brisbane Broncos' performance over the weekend. In particular, the first three carries of the game got up into Talakai, got assistance from our boy Jordan Riki, which we talked about on in that little preview there. Ren Diggity said he got in there and got amongst it as well. And then Talakai still had his moments, the back end of the first half, and then I think when he tried to cross right at the death in the last sort of 10 minutes was the first time he got some actual proper good ball one-on-one on Katoni, and Selwyn come over. Nice, held Talakai up over the line. That in particular, that edge really set the tone for the Bronx and it set them up for a really good win against the informed Cronulla Sharks.
They talked about it as being like an origin preview. Have you seen enough now? So let's say Latrell and or Turbo are out and they need to pick a centre. You were already Katoni over Talakai. I was probably a bit of a prisoner of the moment. I was sitting there going, geez, you got to pick this fake fucking Conrad Harrell over here.
I think you and I were both.
Yeah.
Once again,
where Scope was right.
Perfect take.
Are you taking Katoni right now if you had to pick the team and there's a vacant centre spot? Left or right?
Katoni was always the one for me. I thought it was an interesting battle that was come up against Talakai, but the beauty of Talakai and for Talakai, I'm not getting too down on Talakai because he still had his moments, like I said, in the back end of that first half. He's got that utility value, so he'll still be thereabouts. I believe, from what I've seen, Freddie was talking about with regards to, he looks like Katoni will fill in for Latrell. Latrell seems to be 2 or 3 weeks away where Turbo looks to be playing this week. So Turbo will be back this week. Brian Toto will be back this week. Josh Addo-Carr has had a really good 2 or 3 weeks bouncing back for the Bulldogs there. Katoni looks to be the guy that's going to fill in and play that centre spot. But it's good signs for not only him, but the Brisbane Broncos to be getting those sort of guys in those big games like that.
The Blues they've always have this every year. They're cursed and blessed by the amount of players they can pick. What about Talakai in that 14 role with his ability to play in the outside backs, but obviously also he started his career as a front rower. Yep. If you do go Katoni on a centre spot, do you think you can still, obviously these next few weeks are going to be telling, but do you still think you can find a spot for Talakai, or is that 14 spot going to be reserved for a Nico or a Pappy or however they want?
He'll be thereabouts. I think there'll definitely be a 14, but I wouldn't be surprised with guys that have been on the bench. Me and I talked about it. Guys like Angus Crichton, Arna Locke that were there the last couple of years. Tarek Sims wouldn't be a lock this year. So when we did the breakdown a couple of weeks ago, there was like a 12, sort of 14, 15, 16 spots available for New South Wales, I believe. So he's
still a sniff.
Yeah, Talakai will be thereabouts.
Yeah. What about Souths last week, mate? Talk to me about what you liked, what you didn't like from their performance, and then going into this one against Old Ren Diggity, how you like them? Yeah,
it's gonna be. I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, because we missed out on the Reynolds factor in the first game, and the Broncos did really well and still managed to get that job done. Yeah. It was a tough game for Souths on the weekend. People think, obviously, the Kyle Lawton spear tackle. It's hard not to think that you're going to just coast through a team when I
wanted to ask you that because we know how hard it is for Manly. If you're on the other side of that and the opposition lose someone to red card early, what does that do for your mindset or game plan? Is it one of those ones where you're just trying to shift it every 2 seconds?
No, it's the opposite effect. So what you basically do is you play a bit of a negative style. Like what they would have been thinking, and no one really says it, but I've been in the position before where guys have gone for 10 in the bin, maybe at the end of a game as well. And what you do is you go, all right, boys, we just got to get through our sets and we'll wear them down.
Yeah.
And then what that does, when it doesn't work initially, then you start to go, fuck, all right, well, now we need to turn it up. And then things just get a bit erratic, and there's a bit of complacency that edges into the game. So at the end of the day, they got the job done. I was more impressed by the performance from Manly than I was for South, even though South won. I think everyone was the same. But it was, like I said, it was one of those games where they would have just been happy to get through that once that situation happened. And they got a healthy Cam Murray, which is
game changer.
unreal. I'll talk about the hit as we get to Manly on from our boy Carlos Lawton.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think both teams will really be up for this game. Thursday night games have been, from memory, pretty good the last 2 or 3 weeks. They got their own little spotlight on the Thursday night, and they've been living up to it, and I think this will live up to it as well.
All right. Well, let me get a prediction out of you before we move on then. Where are you going?
I'm going to go the Rabbitohs because at home, I went the Bronx against Rabbitohs in round one too. Another great take of mine. I'm going the Rabbitohs this time because Kurt Capewell and Payne Haas out. Two big outs for me.
And you've stolen my point. Jesus Christ, you've been around me too long already. I would have gone Brisbane. Those outs, I'm going to flip back to South. I think it'll be tight, but I'm going to go South too. Right,
it's always a good thing to jump on board with whatever I'm saying.
Clearly,
takes I've got.
PB&J, I've been fucking following. Raiders and Bulldogs. Ricky, they've made some wholesale changes. So Chance comes back in, but more importantly, Jared Croker. I think everyone's been calling for it for a minute, and it's no disrespect to the guys like Tomoko and Valame who have, obviously got all the upside in the world. But Jared Croker comes back in, Chance comes back in. I believe Frawley's back into the halves with Jack White and obviously being suspended. Let's talk Raiders before we get into it. Obviously beaten by the team that's going to go on and win the comp, so there's no shame in that 1 point loss to the Wars. But what did you make of their performance last week? Over the last few weeks.
When I was watching the start of the game, and this is what I wrote down, you forget how dominant Josh Hodgson was for that period that Canberra were really good. When I was looking at the reason it stood out is because they started Adam Elliott and he played really well too, Adam Elliott. He played really well in that first little stint and then come on and played middle back row for him to give the young hooker Starling. He's named in the 9 again. Starling comes off the bench, and which is probably more used to over the years, coming off the bench for Hodgson and playing a role that way. But that's one thing that you sort of just, when I watch the Raiders play now, and the competition, Josh Hodgson was the second best 9 during that period to only Cam Smith. There was
people in that time, idiots, but talking about how if you were starting a team tomorrow, you'd be taking him ahead of Cam. I mean, he was literally 1A to Cam Smith's 1, you know what I mean?
Who was that? Who was saying that? Was that you, Jacko? Was that one of your takes?
Look, it might have been me, but I'm just saying I agree with you, he was in red hot form.
Yeah, and they're obviously missing him, so that plays a factor. They brought down Jamal Fogarty to be that steadying influence at halves. They've got a rookie in Schneider that's, doing okay in patches. Jackie Whiten, again, is trying his ass off. I thought he played really well in the first half. But, for me, it comes back to Riki, right? And, when results don't go teams' ways, there's pressure, and fairly so. Adam O'Brien's going to be coming under it. Madge looks like he's sort of rejuvenated himself, even though they lost on the weekend. I remember watching him in the boxes, in the coach's box about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he was just under the pump, and he looked like a beaten favourite. He was a parking ticket away from a stroke, that cunt. Yeah. So, and you sort of see that in Riki at the moment. And when I look at Riki, I dare say he doesn't care what my take is on it or whatever, but maybe Ricky's got to roll into the Gus role now, because what Ricky's done and does really well, he's a really imposing factor. I've been around Riki. I was shit scared at Riki when I was in the 20s at Roosters back in the day, and he's still got that aura about him. You can see that. But in terms of coaching, and I put this back on Riki, because the thing is, they've started games really well. They've been in a lead in I can think maybe 3 out of the last 5 games and then let it slip. For me, that comes back to coaching. You've got the roster to get to a lead. You've got to be able to, be sending out the right message at halftime and from the trainers to make sure whatever game plan that you come up with throughout the week, you stick to it. One of those things for me that stood out massively, they did a really good job of getting at Warriors right edge on the weekend. Shawnee Johnson was under the pump. Jack Whiten scored a try. The left edge, Hudson Young scored a try. Tomoko, I think, scored a try, or he tipped it on to Kotrick. Mate, they were hammering the Warriors right edge, which
has been fucking leaking too.
Yeah, it's been leaking. So Why didn't they stick to it in the second half? For me, that comes back to coaching. I think maybe Ricky's had maybe 350 of the best, won a grand final, done everything in the game. He's a legend at Canberra.
Yeah.
And I don't think they'll ever sack him because he's just like ingrained in the culture. But maybe it's time for him to take that role of Gus, where you build the club, because he's really good he's done a really good job at recruiting over the years as well. Yeah, and then you still have that influence where, just say if you bring in a Trent Barrett, he comes down, staunches out the boys. Come on,
bit of rah-rah.
Yeah, for me, I think he's he comes out he's embarrassed for the fans and has a crack at the referees sometimes, and it's the bunker and all this stuff. Sometimes have a look at, bro. Yeah, that's my opinion anyway.
I disagree, but I take your last point there. I look at someone like the Roosters who have been under struggle. Robbo came out and literally wore it all. He goes, we have the roster to win a premiership and we're not doing it because I'm not coaching well enough. So that sort of talks to your point a bit more about the coach taking accountability versus not the Riki blame. Well, he does. He pushes the blame elsewhere a lot of the time, even though he clearly internally is probably spraying the shit out of the boys. I think Canberra have been dealt a pretty tough hand over the last few years. When they was it 2019 when they rolled through to that GF?
Yep.
They were a few dodgy calls away from winning the comp. Like, I think they could have got it done there.
I thought they should have. Yeah,
so
a couple of rough calls.
And I think we're talking completely different about them if they do. People tend to forget that wasn't that long ago. They then roll in. They have injuries. Their season's disrupted. They roll through. Was it another prelim in 2020 where they went close?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they went close, and then
they beat the Roosters to go into the prelim, didn't they?
Yeah, and they would knock it on the door, and things didn't go their way. They then go into the 2021 season, and all of a sudden Bateman goes, which they weren't expecting. George Williams packs up, goes, which they weren't expecting. How much of that was on Riki, I don't know. But you roll in without their two of their three most probably influential players outside of White and Hodgson rather.
Yep.
And then this year they lose Hodgson at the start of the year. They've got all this external pressure of people saying you need to throw Xavier Savage, and he goes, oh fuck, okay, here he is. But he does it at the expense of Chan. So I tend to think, not that he gets a pass for their struggles, because I agree their second halves have been unacceptable. Like, they should have put my boys away.
Yep.
They were the better side for 60 minutes of that game, and the Warriors, to their credit, just hung in there and got the job done, obviously. But I tend to think Jared Croker should have been in from round one. We said that at the time. I don't know whether it was a smart move to blood all the young boys at one point. We know Valemei is going to be a good player. We all like fake Solomon Akata Tomoko out there.
I like Tomoko. Yeah. I would have had Chanzi at centres to make way for Xavier Savage and Tomoko on the right.
Yep, and we all think Savage is going to be a gun. But right now, Chans is still a fucking... Is he top 5 or top 7, top 6 fullback in the game? He went down to reserve grade last week and fucking killed it. Two try assists, a bunch of 100-odd running meters, killed it. So I think that was a mistake. He's rectified that this week. I think they go out there, and I'm hoping there's a big, big response from them against the Dogs. But before we get to our predictions, let's move on to the Bulldogs, because they also had the week of doom scope.
Yep.
Trent Barrett finally got the dub. Maybe Jordan Simi was the curse. When he's not around the club, they seem to perform all right. I don't know how much you read into that.
You read in with... you took my little stab at Simi.
But Gus ends up getting the credit. So I wanted to know, from a player's perspective and from your view outside looking in, what did you make of the Bulldogs week, and then the rhetoric post that it's all Gus and Baz should basically just take a back seat?
So I haven't really bought too much into that, whatever that is. Yep. That was like Gus coming down. He's got an influence at the club. I'm just happy for the Bulldogs. They've been putting in an effort, and they just haven't had the final polish to get the job done and finish it off. I want to give my boy a shout out again, Aaron Schopp. Back-to-back performances against Joseph Manu and Tony Staggs in the last couple of weeks, and really held his own. He must talk a bit of shit, because
he's got it in him.
Because Joey was coming after him in that potential try that was disallowed to Joseph Sawali at the end. And what was the other thing had for them? And this is one part that I wanted to say as well with regards to Flanagan.
Yes.
Kyle Flanagan, no one's talked about him the last couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. That's what Kyle Flanagan needs right now at this point of his career, and the Bulldogs need, to be fair.
Yeah.
He's been solid without being great, getting the team around, getting him in the position to win. Yeah, they've missed a bit of polish in the last couple of weeks, but Flano's gone out there. No one's talking about him.
He's playing with a bit more confidence. He's digging in a little bit. And
Burton's starting to find his way at the Bulldogs, being the guy and putting in positions to win the games with the big 40-20 that stands out.
Yeah.
But, I just think, a couple of guys that have been under pressure. Fox coming from a team like the Melbourne Storm and results haven't gone his way. We talked about him being the emotional and vocal leader for him. A couple of tries against the Roosters to get himself, get the team into the game and take a pick to the house. Just happy for the Dogs, so good win. And I think the Dogs will beat the Raiders.
Oh, there we go. I was going to get into predictions. So you're going the Dogs down there in Canberra?
Yeah.
Don't matter?
I think the Raiders are a little bit lost, and I like more what the Dogs are doing.
I like
even in the losses before last week, I've liked more what the Dogs have done than the Raiders.
I like the inclusion of Jared Croker and Chance. I think that's going to lift him, and I think the Raiders could smack him. So I'm going to go the Raiders in a big bounce back. All right, game of the week. Yeah, Lukey Stowe's Eels up against the 8-0 Penrith Panthers. First team in history to go back-to-back 8-0 starts. So not bad. I was on the undefeated season last year, and there's an asterisk because they only lost during Origin time scope, so I'm going to claim it anyway.
Yeah.
Nathan Cleary doesn't lose football games. We know that. Talk to me about the Panthers last week. What impressed you? What did you like from them last week?
I'm going to combine them both. I think both teams were looking ahead to this game when I was watching it. When you look at the Parramatta result in particular, and even the Penrith Panthers result, where they a little bit scrappy, some uncharacteristic errors from a guy like Dylan Edwards, who not only Mr. Reliable, fucking like you never ever speak about Dylan Edwards having a bad game, but you could see he's frustrated when he had a captain's challenge that was just out of character. Like he clearly locked the ball on, and he goes to Nath straight away. And I think that really set the tone for the Panthers' attitude. And I've said this in the last couple of weeks. Penrith can fuck around for 60 or 70 minutes, switch a flick at any point of the game, whether it be in the first 10 minutes after halftime or 10 minutes to go, and put 3 tries on a team. So in a way, that's a worrying sign for them, because what that does is you just become a little bit complacent again. But I don't think they're going to be complacent against the Parramatta Eels, and I don't think the Parramatta Eels are going to be complacent against them like they were. I think they wanted to go to Northern Territory, a little bit of a away trip, get the job done against the Cowboys, and fucking really lock into the Penrith Panthers. And I think both teams were guilty of looking a week ahead. Yeah, I just love Penrith, watching Penrith attack. I know we all talk about how amazing Melbourne is to attack, but the sign of a good team is when you can win, when you're playing bad and you still win football games. And Penrith, for this 8-0 start, there's probably 4 in different games in there where they haven't maybe
clicked.
More, mate. I reckon 6. They haven't been convincing, not in terms of results, but their performances.
Not firing, not firing on all cylinders, but they're still getting the job done.
No.
The fact that, and Luke and I were talking about this yesterday at home, is like the fact that last year they had on that left side, they had the Dally M Centre of the Year in Burton. He leaves. They had was the Dally M Winger of the Year in To'o, or certainly fucking should have been if it wasn't him.
He misses 6 or 7 games.
And now these 2 young boys come in, they're talking about not only has Burton been simply replaced by Tago, but they're talking about potentially, when everyone's fit, moving To'o to the right wing. He was scoring tries for fun last year, and that's the sign of this, just because they got 2 kids who can come in and do a job. I just think Penrith, you talked about it, I think 2 weeks ago, Isaac asked you, is this the start of a dynasty? I think we're fucking right bang smack in the middle of it. I don't see anyone outside of Melbourne really giving this side a proper run for their money come finals time. I do, however, think you're going to see a big Parramatta bounce back, which Lukey will love.
So do I.
And the biggest part of that is they're fully back into their Dill Brown in the halves.
Yep.
That's what they're waiting for. Opposite comes back in. So I think it's going to be back and forth game. I think Penrith will do enough to get it done late, but I think you're going to see Parramatta with a big response early in that first 20. I think they could run up a couple of quick ones before Penrith growing their way back in. So I'm fucking looking forward to it either way. But I'm going to go Penrith in a tight one.
Yeah,
Get it done late.
So am I. It's been the last couple of games that the preliminary final is obviously so fresh still.
Yeah.
That was one of the better Parramatta performances that I've seen in a long time. And then even at the start of the year, I think Nath might have been out or someone was out for Penrith that was big, but I think they kicked a field goal, kicked a penalty goal to win it. Or Moses had a penalty goal to win it on full time and missed.
Yeah.
So these games,
that
was at Penrith. No, Sullivan would have been at Warriors still last year.
Oh, correct. Sorry,
Jerome, or maybe Matty Burton.
Matty
Burton played in the halves with Nath missing some games. One of the two, someone will correct us. But they've been good games, and I don't see it going any different. I reckon Para, obviously off the back of everything's happened to poor Jakey Arthur this week. I reckon they're going to pump up. I reckon this will be a close one. I think it's going to be a real defensive battle. Both teams will come in with the mindset of defense first and then attack second, and just really try to grind this one out.
You'll be taking the unders?
Oh, fuck yeah, I'm on the unders.
All right, let's move on to the Bird Gang versus the Tigers. Gee, we got an arm wrestle scope. Didn't think we'd be saying this at this point of the season, but Manly, obviously last week, were valiant in defeat. Our boy Carl Lawton, look, it's worth saying, not only is he one of the best looking humans running around rugby league, but it has been said we're now far removed from the spare tackle. That ain't in his game. He's actually got unreal tackle techie.
No, he does. That was good technique. He just lost it a little bit at the end.
Lost the plot a little bit. Whether it was fatigue, he was caught quite far infield. I don't know whether that was just fatigue and, so, as you would know, I probably don't, but sometimes when you're under fatigue like that and he does get that good connection, it might be easy to.
I actually don't know.
It.
I never used my shoulder when I played. When I
You're
tackled.
all arms, yeah.
I was the bear hugger of doom.
Yeah.
Nah, Carlos Lawton. I had him anytime jam.
I
was on
too.
the Bird Gang plus 4.5. He deserved to be sent off.
Absolutely.
Although he didn't finish in a position, Cameron Murray, very close, and it was a really dangerous tackle. Carlos Lawton is really good at that contact. He normally gets it right, gets up under the right underneath the footy and drives him to the ground. This one just went a little bit haywire. But this one thing that I wrote down when I was watching the game as the game went on, reminds me a lot of the Bird Gang of old, that performance. And I messaged Ches and said the same thing. Like years, even before I come to the club, when I looked at playing, before I got to Manly, that's the sort of Manly, the way that they dug in for each other, led by Fozzie and Ches, in particular Fozzie getting them kicked off. I love to see that. Joshy Schuster, man, fuck, he's got some.
I had written here, Schuster impact, talk to me.
I said, one of the things I wrote down, I was like, Schuster was a problem from his first touch. I said, a little bit heavy. Yeah, he needs to drop a couple. But once that comes with fitness, he's missed a lot of the preseason, and obviously with his ankle injury and missed a lot of training.
He'd be the first to admit that, shall he?
Yeah, fucking oath. But fuck, he's nice, bro. He's going to be a problem for him. Originally, I envisioned him coming off the bench and having that touch at the back end of the first half, but with a couple of injuries, Olakwatu was suspended for a game, and Andrew Davey did his shoulder in that Sharks game.
And he was
going
right. I like Davey.
Yeah. Davey was nice, man, for Fozzie, and it's you get a guy like that comes off the bench, but fuck, he got the runs onto the board straight away. Looked all right. 12 people on the field and did a really good job. So super proud to be an ex-Bird Gang member watching that game. It was unreal. It was a great effort, and it's going to be fun coming up against the Tigers. It'll be Tigers. When I look at the Tigers and Dragons game, I write down both these teams are trying not to lose this game. That's the mindset that both of them had.
It was a tough watch.
There was some. I thought there was some nice play from the Tigers to begin with, but the way that they prepared would have been based off what the Dragons have been done over the last couple of weeks. They play a real negative style of footy, the Dragons, and they don't try to lose the game. That's their mindset.
Yeah.
And I think the Tigers sort of played into that. I also, like I said, with Stafford Toll playing at the back, he just doesn't have that touch that Dane Laurie, and Dane Laurie had been unreal in those 2 wins that he got. So. I think this is going to be quite an intriguing game, and I'm going to go watch the game. I'm heading out to Four Pines.
Oh, you get the royal treatment? They get you out a little wrap of honor beforehand?
I'm getting tickets off Ches, and he's putting me with the civilians. So
nice.
That's where I love it. I love getting out with the civilians, getting amongst it.
There you go. Whereabouts is it?
Hopefully I get recognised.
Yeah.
I might even chuck on the 2013 Grand Final jersey and just make sure I do.
I might wear your shorts, mate. Get the pins out.
Get the John Hancock out and sign a few autographs while I'm there on the hill if someone brings me a free beer. So, look out for the skip. I'm trying to convince a couple of boys to come. Maybe a few boys are keen.
I'm actually going to the footy. I'm going to the Wires Cronulla, but we'll get to that.
Okay.
If you're there, if you're out at the game, go say hello to the skip and give him a bit of a spray, especially if the Tigers get up. Before we move off Manly, because I do want to talk about the Tigers, but I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you. I actually asked you yesterday because I was trying to get a little bit of off-mic jam, but you didn't have anything for me. But the narrative that the whole Schuster wants to play 6, they want to re-sign Fozzie, he's unhappy, he's looking elsewhere, pay packet, all that sort of stuff. What have you made of that? I'm not going to ask you what you heard because I already tried to do that. But what do you make of that? Is Schuster, do you see him going, is he going to be a 6 long term? Is he going to be a 6 at Manly long term? Does Fozzie get another contract there? How does that situation work?
I think he's definitely capable of it. I've always said the same thing, and I always refer back to this with Shuey. He reminds me so much of Folletti, man. So much skill, so much touch. Folletti grew up playing 6, the same as probably Josh Schuster played in the lower grades, and then they just transitioned to back row because they were so skillful when they come into the grade. And it's a luxury to have. So it's a conversation that Schuster's got to have with Desi and what else presents itself. Obviously, the Fozzie's the big one. He's off contract at the end of the year. His performance was unreal on the weekend. I couldn't give you any information. I don't speak to the boys about that stuff. That's just stuff
I was
that
just being
stays.
cheeky. I was trying.
That's just stuff that stays in house. Basically, when I message Chairs, I'll just fucking go unreal game on the weekend. like all that sort of fucking generic stuff. We talk more about fantasy, NFL fantasy, than we actually do NRL, to be fair, me and him. But all those sorts of conversations, those are quite real. Even if you're playing, those are personal conversations. Even if I was playing at the team, I wouldn't be going up to Shuey and going, fuck, what are you going to do? You want to play 6 or whatever? It's between manager, Josh Schuster and his manager. It's between Desi and Josh Schuster and Foz and whatever they decide. So that'll be decided. I dare say it'll be decided in probably the next month or so, whether they re-sign Fozzie for another year or he's a player that moves on. So we'll find out. Well, I agree, we'll find out in the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, I think Fozzie, based on purely how he's playing right now, he 100% deserves another contract. So, you all right, Luke? Tipping up. Sweet. All right, let's move on to the Tigers, because it was a bit of a, they came back, but obviously fell to the Tigers. Yep. I mean, to the Dragons, rather. They were flying high, maybe came a little bit back down to earth against the Dragons, but going into this one, what do you like, what do you not like about the Tigers?
I think, again, I think Tigers will... If they watch the video of that game against the Dragons, that negative style of footy, the most impressive part about the Tigers in those 2 games that they won, they had a proper crack.
Yeah.
They played some pretty controlled enterprising footy, but they actually had and tried to strip them for numbers. I thought they played really negative, so I don't think they're going to play negative against the Bird Gang, because Bird Gang get Tommy Turbo back. Yeah. Olaquatu's been a problem when he's played. He missed his game. He's going to be fresh and ready to go.
Still no Dane Laurie.
Shuey's got a game under his belt.
Yeah. Still no Dane Laurie, and I know they get Tyrone Peachy back in, which is a big in for them. And
there's one more that's missing too, sorry.
For who?
Luciano's missing.
Oh, Luci's out, yeah.
Noffa and Luciano.
It's your favourite players.
They're my 2 favourites. They're the reason I love the fucking Tigers, and the guys that I believe that have deserved to the couple of wings in the performances. Yeah. Manly 30 plus.
30.
30.
There you go. Skip's going to be out of the game. Get your ass down there. Go say what's up. I'm going to go Manly 31 plus 2, brother. I think they get it done. All right, let's move on to Isaac's Roosters. Finally, we can talk about the Roosters without that cunt interrupting us. Roosters versus the Titans. Geez, it's been a tough, which I don't think we'd be saying, it's been a tough few weeks to be a Roosters supporter. The squad of doom's still there. Robbo has taken a lot of blame for the losses as the pressure sort of piles on his halves more than anything. Talk to me about the Roosters at the moment, mate. What are you seeing, or what are you not seeing from them? What's going on?
So that's why I love Robbo, and that's the beauty. This is why I don't panic when it comes to a team like Roosters. But the performance has been underwhelming, and I've said this for 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah,
our boss over there, he wouldn't admit
it. Delusional.
He's delusional. He wouldn't. When I talked about the Roosters,
scraping home against the wires as the performance of the fucking
Yeah, it's the reason 12.5 was way too much for the Dogs, even though they got the win. I was like, Roosters just haven't been that team for the last 3 weeks. So there's nothing that said that. This is what I got written down. Roosters, they look erratic and trying to win moments individually. Yeah. So what I mean by that is, the perfect example, Sam Walker. Unreal. I love him. He's got a massive future. Killed it last year. Rookie of the year.
Potential so.
Over top. Oh, yeah, I heard about that. I was seeing Chico wrote something about that. But for me, what sums up the Roosters, and he's definitely got this in his arsenal, tries to do off a scrum play over the top. Josh Adokar picks it and goes to the house. Yeah. The reason I bring that moment up because that was like the 15th minute of the game, maybe a little bit later in the first half. What Sam did and the Roosters did really well last year is they set up for that sort of play. So what you do is a lot of the times, whether it be a half or a team, you want to get information. So what you do is you run that typical block play and you play short and you just see, all right, is Fox hedging his bets here? Is he coming up? Is he wedging? Is he coming in on Joey Manu or Teddy who's out the back? Or is it, can I get Joseph Suwali on the outside? So that's what you do for the first couple. You get a bit of information. Look to play short, or play early out the back to Teddy or whoever's sweeping. Yeah. To go that play that early in the game without getting the information, I thought maybe they'd seen it in video. So that's where I could be wrong on this. But for me, I feel like not only Sammy Walker, that was just one example from him, but I've seen it from Teddy, who's made a break. He's really good at sniffing around the ruck and made a little half break in the last couple of weeks. And instead of, all right, that was good fucking 30 or 40 metres, getting up, playing the ball, get him on the next play, trying that offload, Daniel Tupou, Joey Manu, they're best players.
Doing uncharacteristic errors,
Or they're not doing it consistently, but at least one of them's coming up with them every week when I watch the Roosters. So, Robbo, this is why I don't worry again. Robbo will figure it out. And also, those players are elite, and I think they'll figure it out over the next couple of weeks. But those have been the worrying signs for me for the Roosters.
I do have, believe it or not, Scope, I've got a bit of a controversial Teddy take, which I will get to, but I want to ask you something first.
This is going to be awesome.
But I want to get something first. The Hastings-Brooks thing, the reason why I bring these two up, they essentially swapped the 6 and 7, yeah?
Yep.
I know it's just a jersey number, but their roles, you clearly saw their roles change, and Jacko became the chief playmaker, and Luke Brooks went back to doing Luke Brooks shit when he was playing with Moses, and I know he still wore the 7, but that's his role as a traditional 6. Do you think that Walker and Carey are in the wrong roles in their 6 and 7 respectfully? Because maybe it's just because we've seen him do it. Carey was, for me, one of the best 6s in the world for a long time. When he's wearing that 7 jumper, and I don't understand halfback play as well as you, obviously, but it looks to me like Sam Walker's the more natural organiser of a footy side, and Carey's the more natural take a short side, strip it, do his thing. And I just wonder if the pressure of having the 7 versus having the 6 on his back is doing anything. Robbo's obviously much smarter than me and knows what he's doing. Would you be inclined to see a change in those guys' roles and jersey numbers, or it doesn't matter to you?
Doesn't matter. In short, no. I don't think it plays a part for the Roosters. I think I can understand where you're coming from with the whole Tigers take, but with these guys, for me, are a lot more settled. Keary is way more advanced than the other two players that you mentioned from the Tigers, and Kez is the guy that runs that team, and Sammy Walker's the guy that plays off the cuff and still learning the game. It'll come. Another little conversation that I had with Ches like a couple of weeks ago about how he's really developed his game. I can see a lot of Ches in Sammy Walker where he comes on, he plays off the cuff. Like I said, Ches used to wear the 7 jersey, but essentially he was our 6. Fozzie was more of the 7. I see a lot of Sammy Walker in him. He's developed into his game, and he's still figuring it out, Sammy Walker. It'll come, but for me, Kez is the out-and-out 7, and Sammy Walker's the 6.
I'd love it if he plays for the Cummels. That'd be a spine of doom with our little
that'd be unreal.
Yeah. Right. Controversial Teddy take, and I want to preface this with because I don't... I love Teddy. And I love the Stephen Donald jersey. I love everything about him. I think he's one of the best fullbacks of all time. I genuinely do.
Easy. What do you got?
Back end of Paul Gallen's career, mate. He was getting through some work.
Yeah.
Numbers are doom.
Yep.
200 metres. 1 million touches. I felt like in that Cronulla side with the likes of Luke Lewis, Wade Graham, the boys running, I felt like Gal was overdoing it and taking quality touches off other players for not necessarily quality work. He was getting through a shitload, and at the end of the game, you're going, fuck me, he's ran for another 150 metres and he's touched the ball 17,000 times. But he was taken away from Fafita, Wade Graham, and stuff like that. When I watched the Roosters play last week, Teddy was getting through a mountain of fucking work. There were times where I felt like he was carrying the ball for the sake of carrying the ball when you've got guys like Keary, Walker, Manu, Tupou, Momirovski and the boys out there, Satili Tupanua. I'm not saying that I would do anything with Teddy in terms of, I'm not saying drop him or any of that sort of rubbish. I feel like at the moment he's getting through so much work, and I think maybe 20% of the work he's getting through is unnecessary. I think the quality of Teddy's touches has reduced as the quantity has gone up, and I think he's taking away from other guys like Walker, Keary, Satili in particular. And
I understand where you come from.
Yeah, I would just
So you're smiling at me as I assume.
There's a lot of those one-off-the-ruck runs where...
So I'm just saying, you've Teddy and Gal.
Yes.
This is Jackson Thomas's take, right? So
I'm using that as an example of a guy where I saw it and I...
in a way, you've had a little dig at a couple of the big dogs there, so I'm just...
That's your take, yeah. All I'm saying is I think at times Teddy does too much, and I think that I'd rather see more quality and less quantity from Teddy because he can go out there and run for 300 metres against the Titans and they'll win. Like, he can do it. But I just would like to see the ball in the hands of some of those other guys a little bit more, and you get those quality Teddy touches. I'm probably wrong. People are probably going to say that I'm an idiot and Teddy is the most important part of their team, and you've probably got a point, but that's just my take.
Yeah, I still just think it comes back to my first point where in years past, probably, like I said, you don't think about Teddy having too many carries like last year. I would have to look at it, Jacko. I'd have to, with that sort of take, I'd have to look at his touches compared to last year. For me, I think he's having the same influence in terms of how many times he gets the hands on his ball, but it's just not his quality. Like I said, they're trying to win moments, big moments by themselves individually, not only Teddy. I think it's across the board. So I think that's what's coming into it, where normally you'd see Teddy get those touches, but he comes up with the right play more often than not.
Maybe that's it.
And I think that's definitely just dipped a little bit. So that'd be, like I said, he's a champion player. Robbo's a champion coach. They'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And the thing is, they're playing a team in the Titans that they play erratic, and they're that Ice calls them the boy in the water as well. So they're coming up against a team that's going to give him these little half chances whether they make the right decision, can put it away and try to get them on the next play, because I think that's going to be important. Like, you look at what the Titans did against the Panthers. Let's move on to the Titans there.
Yeah.
Same thing against the Panthers, and what they do every week. Fuck, they give you so much, but they're also capable of turning a game on its head as well in a couple of minutes. With the, guys like David Fafita that comes off the bench, like the Titans are that sort of team where they'll give you a little bit and they'll show these little things that make you want to overplay your hand, but I think you've got to play a little bit more conservative against the Titans. A bit like how I said how you play against the Tigers a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. Let's move on to the Titans, because we will get into the game itself, but I want to talk to you about them specifically.
Yeah.
Fuck, Tino's having a red hot crack.
He's
absolutely unreal, and I want to talk about a couple of things off the jump for me. Number one, I don't know what's happened, but how do you not? What's happened from round one to now where Jaden Campbell can't get into the side? I don't understand. He's playing reserve grade, putting on clinics left, right and centre. Yeah. And we'll get to Tyrell Sloan, who's kind of in that same boat at the moment. But your round one side, when everyone was fit, are available right now. And I know that maybe you think, because for me, Will Smith is in their long-term six. Let's call it what it is. He's a nice player. He's a nice piece. And if you're saying that Brim's in the six experiment, you gave it, 4 weeks, and it didn't work, and now he's back at fullback. Jaden Campbell's only position is fullback. Is that fair to say? You don't see him as a half?
Not from what I've seen.
So what are you doing with that many quality players? Because I don't think you're going to beat the Roosters with Will Smith and Toby Sexton as your halves. But if you had Toby Sexton, Brimo and Jaden Campbell at the back, who knows? I'm going based off the end of last year when we saw Jaden Campbell doing Jaden Campbell shit. It blows me away. Not only is he not in the side, mate, but Asako's 18th man. Campbell's down in the extended reserves. So he's not even... That doesn't...
The number of the jersey won't define who comes in next. But I get your point.
My point is he's not close.
Yeah, I think it's more to do with Brimo and the experiment of Brimo playing six. I've seen Justin Holbrook come out and said that Brimo's their best fullback and best 5'8", but the thing is he hasn't been playing his best footy at six. So unfortunately that puts you in the position where young Jaden Campbell... At the end of the day, too, Jaden Campbell played unreal last year, but he's still a young kid. A lot of these kids are still figuring it out. We always forget this, and get caught up, and you're a prisoner at the moment. But some of
would you play? Would you play Jaden Campbell?
The thing is, when you get a bit critical as well, and we're guilty of this, Fox, Channel 9 or whatever. You're not in the building. You don't see what happens 24/7. I'm not saying that those boys aren't doing it, but they've got to make decisions. Justin Holbrook's he's another coach. He'd be under a bit of pressure at the moment. And he's trying to figure out the best way to win that. I agree with him. I said this a couple of weeks ago. Again, talking about Brimo, I think I've seen enough from Brimo at six. He's just too good a fullback for me to not have him in that position. So I can see what Justin Holbrook's thinking. And like you said, Will Smith's not the end. Like, he's not a long-term answer, but
he's a plug-and-play guy. Yeah,
he was the beauty of having him. This is the beauty of having a guy like Will Smith in your squad. Didn't set the house on fire against Penrith last week, but fucking Penrith are Penrith. Like I said, Titans will give themselves a chance against the Roosters.
I think Will Smith... So they've got Tanner Boyd in that 14 jersey, and he's an out-and-out half. I know he can play a bit of hooker. I just think Will Smith in the 14, Jaden Campbell at the 1, and Brimo in the 6 is still the best 17 that the Titans can put on. But like you said, Holbrook knows more about that, what's going on in the inner workings and how they click at training and those combinations. He's probably talking to guys like Toby Sexton and Clark and that and saying, who are you more comfortable with? I'm sure. So that's just my take. I can't fathom how Jaden Campbell, based off what he did last year, and then he was in the fucking squad as your fullback. He gets hurt. He's now not hurt. You've lost a few games. You've decided he's not good enough to get back in. So it doesn't make sense to me, but let's get a prediction out of you. Roosters, Titans, where are you going? Yeah,
going to be a bit harder with obviously David Fafita missing this week.
Yes,
I think he's succumbed to that knee injury. So I think the Roosters should be able to get it done. See, I don't think it's a massive positive as well for the Roosters to see a guy like David Fafita. Like, Roosters are in that mode now where I reckon they've got to see people's best team to make sure that they're fully invested. But I think the Roosters will just get over him in the end.
Yeah, I think it's a big bounce back from the Roosters. I think they've put a bit of a score on them. Right, let's move on. The Cowboys flying high. We spoke about them obviously at the top of the show. They're taking on the Newcastle Knights. We'll start with the Knights scope just because
we've talked a lot about the Cowboys.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about the Cowboys.
Let's get into the Knights.
We'll stay on the Knights. I think we're probably both going to be picking the Cowboys anyway. But on the Knights, mate, they've named Tex Hoy, Sexy Texy. Shout out Tex is getting another run in the 6 jumper. And Phoenix Crossland, who actually went off injured last week, has been named in the 7. So they've dropped Clifford. It's obviously a bit of an overhaul. I thought it was weird that O'Brien held a press conference yesterday just to He held an impromptu press conference to address that he was going to make some changes to the team.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Very strange. Like, I've worked as a journo for 7 years.
Are you sure that just wasn't because we do recovery interviews?
No, it was a press conference. So he put the media call out, held a press conference where he addressed that there would be some changes and stuff, clearly trying to front foot it because he knew that everyone would be going, oh my God, he's named Hoy and Crossland and he's dropped Clifford and Clune and all this other stuff. But that was fucking weird. Typically, like, I heard a few of the journos saying it, like, as a journalist, if you were to get the email from the club that says, hey, listen, like, out of the blue, there's going to be a press conference, you're expecting big announcement.
Yeah.
You're expecting retirement, resignation, signing, if it's a really big signing, something like that. So for him to do that, I thought was weird. I don't know what the fuck is going on with Newcastle at the moment. KP looks a little bit disgruntled with everything that's going on post-contract stuff. But talk to me a little bit about that side on paper that you see in front of you now and what's going on at Newey. They haven't scored a try in 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I said the two kickoffs to start both halves.
Yeah.
Sum up the Knights for me at the moment. And it's just they look like they're down. Yeah, KP's another guy, like, you chuck it in, he just looks like he's got zero confidence. And
trying his ass off.
And like, it was blown up what he said after the game, but basically what he was saying, and I'll read between lines, he was saying they must have had a really good chat throughout the week, and then it just didn't come out. Like, he's been, again...
It deflated.
He's turned into that guy, man. He's going to turn into that guy where they needed
a whipping boy. The media
need a villain,
yeah.
And it's for whatever reason now, because of the new contract and the way that was. You know what I reckon it plays into it too, is the fact that he had all the cards for so long, like the big media. They don't like that when he does the press conference.
The LeBron
in his
effect.
Yeah, it's a bit, so now they're going to come after him, and he's going to be under the pump. And it doesn't help that they're losing games, like you said, by not putting on points. He's saved.
Oh fuck, he's having
one try for
bro.
sure,
yeah.
and he's getting in there, and it's just not happening for him. We always said at the start of the year, the halves are always a big concern. Is it Jaden Brayley? Which one's up there?
The hooker, Jaden, yeah.
Is Jaden...
Is it Jaden Chick? Yeah, I think it is, yeah.
Yeah.
Forgive us, it's Blake.
Or the other, yeah, Blake or... Blake's at...
It's Jaden.
It's Jaden, definitely, yeah. So obviously losing him at the start of the year doesn't help. But, yeah, the Knights... the two kickoffs to start both halves just really sum up where they are at the moment. They're just fucking a little bit all over the shop. They're lost. They're down on confidence across the board. Their forward pack that... I fucking love the Safidi brothers as well. Like,
you want to talk about origin spots being up for grabs? I don't know if Saifidi's cemented that spot. He certainly did last year, and I think Freddie will show a bit of faith for that first.
He would have been their first front row pick last year.
That's what I mean. And now with the question marks, I don't know how much Freddie plays club form into it, because we've seen with some of like the Tarek Sims pick and stuff. If he thinks he can do a job and you've done it before, he'll give you a crack.
I think he'll stick by Daniel for the first game.
So do I, but he better fucking turn up in that first game. Otherwise, I think it could get tough for him. But I just wanted to quickly ask on that selection in particular. Like, we love Texie here. Tex is a fullback first and a half second. Would you have maybe been more inclined to move Ponga into the 6 and Tex at fullback?
Just
for this game, if you're just trying to plug a hole?
They're in that position where they need their best players playing their best positions to get him out. KP's... His best position's fullback, so he needs to be staying a fullback, yeah, but KP's Queensland fullback when everything's going right. So leave KP at fullback. Tex Hoy, Crossland, it's been a concern. Obviously, the halves to start the year. Clune and Clifford did a good job for the first couple of weeks. They just look like they're just... It
was always their depth at half, which we were all concerned about.
Missing a step, but a couple of local juniors, they'll have a crack. They always play hard for the Jersey, Texie and Phoenix, but tough ass. They're going up against Cowboys. Cowboys should comfortably get this done.
Up there, yeah. I think the Cowboys should get it done too. So, it could be tough days ahead for Newey. Let's move on to the Storm versus the Dragons. The Storm just casually racking up 120-odd points in 2 weeks. They actually look like they have more fun than anyone, more fun than Penrith when they're playing football at the moment. Obviously, smacking my boys by 70 would do that to you. But talk to me. We'll get on to the Dragons because I've got a bit to say about them. But let's talk about the Storm first, their performance last week and what you made of it.
Yeah, typical Storm. And this is the point, again, I brought up last week with Ice, where Panthers need to get to the Storm. They need to be fucking ruthless in their performances against teams. And I wrote down, just watching the start of that game, Storm watched a few upsets over the weekend. And then put a clinic on how you attack lower ranked teams and what you do. So they had a clear game plan again. That Newcastle Knights right edge has been suspect even before Dane Gagai missing this week. The last couple of weeks they really struggled. Yeah. They attacked that left edge. They let Newcastle know they were coming down that left edge. Obviously Justin Olm's been on fire. He went over for a try early meeting. Prez was putting on a clinic as per. They've always got a clear game plan. and they're relentless at it, and they don't let up all the way to the end when Prez throws that. They're up by 50, plays a little bit of shape, gets a little bit of anytime jam, which is I talked about. Shout out to the we missed peanut butter and jam, but on that little clip that I put up, but that highlights what the Melbourne Storm are. They had a game plan. They didn't get lazy on it. They got to a lead. They didn't get complacent. They just keep fucking going at you. And that's the difference probably between them as across the board for a season. But talent-wise, that's the difference between them and Penrith. Penrith need to find that ruthlessness to just fucking smack these teams at the moment.
Foot on the throat.
Foot on the throat. Stay at it. Have a clear game plan. Stick to it. And, that's the beauty of the Storm.
I wish they put the Q in the rack against my boys. You know that meme where it's like, stop, he's already dead? Can't. You're up 50. Just surely. I know they pulled Pappy off. They've racked on another 20 points, the bastards. I think the Storm
Take
at the moment...
Pappy off and put Prez at fullback.
Yeah, fuck me. I think the Storm at the moment, they are the gold standard in terms of exactly what you said there. They don't... Mate, they could be running out against Chico's Blacktown Workers. They're coming to play.
Yeah.
They don't give a fuck. So, I think everything you said on the Storm is right. I don't think I need to add too much, but I want to jump over to the Dragons because Jackie Bird's back this week, which is a big in for them in the sixth jumper. But I want to talk about Tyrell Sloan, and I've been away for a minute, so I haven't sort of been in this with you. Look, the Dragons have won 3 in a row, Scope, so it's hard to argue that Hook hasn't made the right call with Mbai there at the back.
Yep.
They're winning games. That's what it's all about. But Tyrell Sloan, he ran an absolute muck against the Magpies on Sunday. He scored a double. He set up another try. He had 3 line breaks, 6 tackle busts, knocked up 224 metres at fullback.
Yep.
So we were out watching Chico put a clinic on Souths. Meanwhile, Tyrell Sloan was across town doing this. They've now dropped Jaden Sullivan, who obviously scored the game winner of them. He's dropped into the 18th man spot. With those young boys in particular, it seemed at the start of the year he was committed to developing these guys. And maybe there's a game plan where it's around... I'm
listening to you. Do I catch you off guard? I'm thinking about a few things in my head. Do I keep going?
I don't know whether the game plan is drip feed them through first grade, a few games here, a few games there. Talatau Moan, obviously, is coming off the bench again. But to me, Tyrell Sloan, when I look at that roster, I think he's their second best player behind Ben Hunt. I genuinely do. Ooh. I know Molo's been put on
a clinic. That's big take again, Jacko.
I know
good to have you back.
But I don't know what he has to do to get back in this side.
Yeah, well, so I'll get into what I think about the Dragons. And it's, again, we're sort of on the same path except for being the second best player in the team. I love fucking Tyrell Sloan. But the Bud Sullivan try at the back end is the perfect example of what I've been talking about where, they play a negative style of footy and that's been getting them wins. But you need to be blooding these guys in these moments and for them to be learning because Ben Hunt and Andrew McCulloch know how to do it. Moses Mbai knows how to do it at this point in his career. These are solid first graders, but these would be fucking unreal lessons if these boys were a part of this team. Like if Tyrell Sloan's playing in this game and they're able to learn. Obviously now...
I think he had... Sorry to interrupt you, Scup. I think he had a tough lesson in that Cronulla game where it was in the rain and he had a bit of an indifferent performance. But instead of letting him take that lesson and carry forward, he dropped them.
Yeah. He hasn't been same as Talatau Moan. So these guys... Talatau was all right in filling in for Birdie on the weekend as well. I just think, like I said, and I've said this sort of, I think we're on the same wavelength, because these guys need to be a part of these games because the Dragons, like I said, they're not going to do anything. They're not going to win the comp this year. So it's important for these guys to learn. If this is the style of play that Anthony Griffin wants to play, he wants his defensive first mind coach. Chico's told this from his time at Penrith. Well, these guys need to learn how to be in these games. And the beauty of them, when they are playing these negative style, like this negative style of footy, they've got the talent to fucking score the game winner.
Yeah.
Bud Sullivan, it's an arm wrestle. There's not much doing. There wasn't great shape.
Scoop and go, baby.
Jump out of dummy half. Fucking try. Bud Sullivan seals the game for the Dragons. So I think it's important for these guys to be, whether you play all three of them together, that's probably a decision that, he's probably playing in his head. So that's why Moses Mbai comes in. But
I would have Mbai in that 14 role and I'd have Sloaney at the back.
Yeah, I'd have at least 2 out of the 3 of the young guys in here. I'd love all 3 for me, but I'm not the coach up there. But I'd have at least 2 of the 3 because I love all 3 of them, and I think they're the future for the Dragons moving forward.
Like I said, Dragons fans will be into me because they have won 3 in a row. So I get it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So
I dare say a lot of Dragons fans would be
let
agreeing.
us see this kid.
I know mates that are Dragons fans, and they're excited about what potentially they have there, and they just want to see more of it. Yeah. But they're coming up against the Storm.
Maybe a good week to play Rizzy if you come against the Storm.
Yeah, because that negative style of footy is not going to work against the Storm.
No.
They know how to play that fucking grind game, and then they'll come over and they'll have the points that are required to beat the Dragons.
70 points against my boys, 50 points last week at Amy Park against the Dragons. What are the Storm going to do, Skip?
Yeah, that, like I said, that negative style is not going to work, but Storm should have enough. I don't think it's going to be a blowout like games past for them.
Yep.
Dragons are a better outfit. They're not going to lose the game, so there might be a bit more of a battle before the Storm kick away in the last sort of 10 to 20.
Yeah, I'm going to go 56-10. I think they absolutely ramp him again, mate. All right, game of the round, Scope. Let's finish it off. You'll be at Manly game, correct, this week?
Correct.
Your boy's going to be out at this one. The mighty Sharks taking on the Wars off the back of a win. 1 point win, but hey, we'll take it, Skip. We'll take it. I want to talk about the Sharks first. Obviously, everyone's sort of... I saw some narrative out there about the Talakai bounce back. I don't think he needs to bounce back. I thought he was good. We touched on it when you spoke about the Broncos. But talk to me about the Sharks' performance last week and rolling into this one at home. Yeah,
I give all credit to the Broncos. They really come to play for me. Nothing went right for the Sharks and still only just lost.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, they had so many uncharacteristic errors, in particular for guys like Nico, who's been on fire to start the year. He got a little bit frustrated by Adam Reynolds' style of D. So what was happening on those really good fan-shaped plays that the Cronulla have had in the last couple of weeks, instead of the centre making the decision, the little pest fucking Adam Reynolds was getting up in the face of Nico before it even got to Talakai, which was cutting it down. So they'll probably have a little adjustment. Craig Fitzgibbon's been really good at adjusting over the first couple of weeks. I think the Sharks will be fine. The one thing that sort of stood out, it's good to see Wade Graham back playing on that left edge. And it's going to be interesting to see how that dynamic plays out on the left edge now for him, because Wado, he's been throughout his career, he's
almost a half on that side.
I've always given him high praise because he reminds me so much of Gifty, like Glenn Stewart. They both can play with the footy at a high click, throw a little kick in.
Tough as
fuck. It's going to be because, is it Teague Wilton, who's done a good job? He's more straight up and down. He's going to be that whole runner for him. So whether he starts, is he starting? No, so Teague Wilton's still starting on the weekend. But maybe a guy like Wade might end up finding his way into the starting lineup. I'm not too sure.
I dare say he will by season's end,
But yeah, just finding that little combination with Talakai now, because they've got to rebuild that with Nico on that left edge. That's a fucking dangerous left edge now, man. Like, as much of a big rap I've got on Teague Wilton, Wade throws, like I said, Wade can play short to Talakai. He's still one of the... even though we talk about his ball playing, he's a premier fucking hole runner as well. So you've got Wado now on the edge, run a line, tip onto Talakai, roll a kick in for Mulatalo.
Yeah, it's deadly.
Flick over the top to Mulatalo. That left edge.
By the way, Will Kennedy's sweeping up the back.
Oh, fuck yeah. Moyes is floating about.
Against, let's be honest, that right edge of the Wars,
that's where they're coming, baby. You fucking Jacko.
the old sieve.
You beat me to it. Geez, that right edge is going to be under the pump this week.
Yeah.
The Sharks are coming. I think they'll bounce back quite nicely. And I think that's all I had to say on the Sharks.
For that right edge, your boy Dell, your cuzzy's back in, so that is a big in. But look, it's no secret that my boys have. They're light.
It's good to see Dell back after what happened to him in the Storm game.
Yeah, exactly.
As well.
Back pretty quick for what seemed to be a fucking ruthless knockout.
Yeah, it was ruthless, but it was concussion. Generally, they take, especially for those
no
really bad ones.
You're away,
if you're good 10 days, it's good to see him back out, because I was a little bit worried. I had a lot of people messaging me because, and I was messaging Mum to see how Arnie Kara was. But good to see him back out there playing.
Talk about the Warriors last week. Got the 1 point win. The big story point was obviously the Matty Lodge elbow. What'd you make of that versus the Matty Lodge lie down at the end? Big deal, no big deal? Yeah,
so the Matty Lodge elbow. Corey played it up a little bit as well, but it was a penalty every day of the week.
Not a yellow card?
Nah, not a yellow card, because I don't think he was lucky. He just never really got him with the elbow. Got him more with the forearm, which sort of grazed Corey.
Yeah.
I know Corey, man. He's about that.
He's taken worse ones than that.
He's playing around a little bit, gets up, has a little bit of a smirk. So, and then at the end...
Let me rephrase it this way, Scope. You're in his position. Game on the line.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to get to.
You staying down?
I'm looking at it from a purely competitive side. I haven't liked it in games. I thought players have been using the neck and a few hits across to lay down.
Me,
Fuck, man. You're down by 2 points. Game management, you're right in front of the post.
Can't blame him.
I not only can't blame him, and I reckon a lot of players, maybe 95% of the NRL would be doing the same thing in that position.
I think they
95%.
Where did I say? Was it Guru? Someone said it. The only one who wouldn't do it, and as a fan it'd piss you off, Fozzie would bounce up.
Fozzie would get up,
and you'd be like, "Can't stay down."
Fozzie had one on the weekend where he got hit high, or maybe in a crusher tackle. Fuck, he's always getting up. His fucking rig's in awful shape, but he gets up and he plays the ball. They're not a lot of guys, and it was obviously you're not going to be happy about it if you're a Raiders fan, but
Yeah.
they should have. At the end of the day, Riki, and this is where he took accountability for that. He's like, at the end of the day, we should have done more to win that game by the time it gets to that anyway.
Yeah, I don't blame Lodgy for that.
But I did say there were 25 errors from both teams with 15 minutes to go.
It was a kind of a game.
Their completion rate has been unreal to start the year. I wrote down the Storm may have turned the Warriors back to 2 years ago.
Yes.
So, fuck it. We're not going to win games against the Storm and the big teams by trying to complete. And they just got a bit willy-nilly.
Yeah.
I can see the Sharks doing a number on your wires. I wouldn't be going to that game if I was you, Jacko.
Yeah, no, I have a Cronulla jersey on underneath. But quick little anecdote just on that. When Mooks came over to the Wires in 2017, when he came from that Melbourne system, the Warriors had the first, as in number one, completion rate in the NRL.
Said this before, yeah.
Yeah, beauty, 14th. Finished 14th.
Yeah, just doesn't suit the makeup.
Doesn't suit it, man. I'd rather have a crack and lose by 60 than not have a crack and squeak home in those boring ones. But anyway, talk to me a little bit. The one thing I did want to mention about the Wires, they got the big... When they signed Reece Walsh, it was a bit out of left field because he was the hottest prospect outside of Sammy Walker in junior footy, and they got him. They signed this week Ronald Volkman.
Yeah.
So the young half out of the Roosters system, who is a rugby union boy by trade, but he is hot property, as if you believe Pete O'Sullivan and those boys. He was hot property, and a lot of clubs wanted him. The Warriors have got him, and they've added him to... They've signed guys like Luke Metcalf, obviously Dylan Walker, Nia Corey, Mitchie Barnett, Walshy staying. So I think they're quietly having a little bit of a... It's not an off-season of doom because they're in the season, but recruitment-wise, I know everyone heaped praise on the Dogs last year, but this is a hell of a recruitment drive in terms of investing in their future. Yeah. So if Volkman is
nice
what
picture
they...
you just said that. I didn't think about him when you put them all together
If
like
Volkman is what they believe he's going to be, and Luke Metcalf can develop into what, he's rapid, but he's got some work to do. Shawnee's, a bit long in the tooth. So I think I like the way that my boys are investing in their future, and obviously a guy like Dylan Walker and Barnett and Nia Corey who are ready to roll right now. Next year they're going to be a problem, but it could be a tough one in this one. I'm obviously going to back the boys, but I'll be out at the game. I'll be out at the game, so come say what's up. Maybe before sort of the 50, 60-minute mark before it could get away from him. So come and say good day early on.
I'd be gone by fifth or sixth minute. You've got to go get him before he has his first beer and his hot chips and meat pie and sauce.
I'll be into the steak and cheese, Scope. But that is the YKTR Sports Show for another week. Scope, I've enjoyed this one, man. Bit of time shopping.
Good to have you back, Jacko. Some great takes. Didn't disappoint, baby.
YKTR Sports Show, baby.